Hello friends, my name is Haley and welcome back to my channel. So today I am doing the Match That Audio Challenge tag thing that Holly Hearts Books came up with, so I will leave the link to her original video down below. So it's a pretty simple premise. You hear she left a list of sound effects and you listen to them and then choose whatever book you think matches that sound effect. And I think it's really unique and it's different than any of the tags we've had before, and it sounds really fun. And as I was watching, I was already thinking of books that I have that would go with some of the sounds. So let's get into it. I'm really excited. So here is our first sound. So booing. So I'm going to take that the same way that Holly did, as a book that I did not enjoy. I feel like I'm going to get myself in trouble right off from the start. My book of choice is The Hazelwood by Melissa Albert. It's been a little while since I read it. I think I read it around Halloween time last year. It took so long for me to get through this book because it was so boring. I did not like the characters at all, and that's not to say that it's just because the main character is an unlikable character. I don't have a problem with unlikable characters as long as they're still interesting or doing something interesting. There's so much build up to the fantasy world, but it took so long to get there that I just completely lost interest. There was a little bit of her grandmother's stories that came to life sprinkled throughout the book, but it wasn't enough to keep me interested. Also, I believe my tabs were green, were stories I didn't like. I don't know if you can, or parts that I didn't like, I don't know if you can tell, but the majority of the tabs in this book are green, so definitely did not like this one. Alright, here's the next sound. So it took me a second, and then I went, wait a minute, why did it take me a second? So I interpreted that sound as something with either like a plot twist or just a terrible cliffhanger that leaves you dying for the next book. And it's such an easy one, it should have come to me right away. That is The Wicked King. My relationship with this series is really interesting because the first book I gave just like 3 stars, but the second book I devoured. I loved this book so much, and this ending, I needed the next book right away, and I'm dying for it. But that's why I'm so happy that The Queen of Nothing got pushed up a couple months, because I need it as soon as possible. So thank you to the publishing company and Holly Black, I'm sure, for writing very quickly. I'm sure she wanted to know the ending just as fast as we did. So definitely The Wicked King. Cannot wait for the sequel. And here's the next sound. If it wants to go. So when I hear birds chirping, I kind of think of peaceful, nature-y things, maybe a forest. My brain didn't automatically just go to birds in general, it's more just like nature, being at peace. And I made kind of a strange connection in my brain, but that's what we're here for, right? So I chose the D&D Player's Handbook because of a certain class. If you're not familiar with D&D, you play different classes, like wizard, rogue, sorcerer, such and such. And you also play different races, so like a halfling, dwarf, elf, whatever. So my mind immediately went to druids. That's what I thought of when I heard the sound. They're very nature-oriented characters. They do a lot of magic that comes from nature and earth, and they tend to look very earthy, wild people as well. So that is why I chose my boyfriend's very beautiful special edition Dungeons & Dragons Player's Handbook. And here's the next one. So this one's a little bit more challenging. I can also do D&D for that as well, since you're always exploring dungeons. You gotta open doors, creaky doors to get into little hidden spots and whatever. But I'm gonna think a little outside the box, and we'll see what I can come up with here. It's gonna take me a second, because this one's a little bit of a challenge for me. Okay, I found the book. I had to get a little bit creative with it, but you will understand my reasoning by the end of this. So I chose City of Bones by Cassandra Clare. When you think of a creaky door, personally for me, I imagine somebody opening up like a cellar door or something that you go down into. That's just where my mind automatically went to. So I was thinking of the Silent City, is it called? Where the Silent Brothers live, because you have to go down into like the catacombs. That's why it's called City of Bones. So the name directly comes from them. So that was the closest thing that I could come up with that kind of fit the sound. And the next sound. So thunder, loud crack of thunder, lightning. I actually thought of two for this one. So when I think of thunder, as many people I think, the first thing that comes to my mind is Thor. So this is Thor, God of Thunder by Jason Aaron, Volume 1 in the hardback edition. So there's quite a few stories in here, but it contains one of my favorite comics arcs ever called The God Butcher. If you are interested in reading Thor, I think it's a really good place to start. There's 3 different versions of Thor from the past, I think the present, and the future, where he's basically like an Odin, he's become king, and they're all working together to stop this guy, the God Butcher, who has become like a very huge threat in killing off gods. It's incredible, very well done, highly recommend it. Thor and thunder, they go together. And then the other one that I was thinking of is The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. This is called the Stormlight Archive. A lot of this world, the magic system revolves around their Stormlight, because this world, as you can see in the distance, I don't know if you can actually really tell very well in this picture, but right here there's a lot of lightning. Oh, that's why you can't tell. There's a lot of lightning in the world. The world has adapted to very violent thunderstorms that you won't survive if you are out in them. So all of these creatures are crustacean-like, or the grass even has systems of pulling itself in. Everything has some sort of shell to protect itself from the storms. So definitely a very big instrumental part of the Stormlight Archive, which I haven't finished this book yet, but I'm working on it. So you'll see it in a wrap-up one of these days. And the next sound, my first thought is Saved by the Bell, but that's a TV show. So anything that takes place in a school is how I interpret it. But the one that I really want to talk about, because it's a book that nobody talks about anymore, but I personally still love it so much, is The Princess Diaries. And you see my sad little trade paperback is very destroyed because I love these books so much. So obviously this is what the movie with Anne Hathaway and Julie Andrews is based on. They're very, very different. The only thing that's really similar is that she's a princess of the country Genovia. But I love this book because it's written like a journal, like diaries. So you always know where she is, what time of day. And I think it's a really cool format. It really inspired me when I was younger. I read these books in middle school, and they kind of helped encourage me to journal more, which I think has been really important in my life. And they're really funny. I remember I never finished the series because I got tired of Mia's complaining. She complains a lot, but I still think they're really fun books, and it's worth reading at least the first book because it's pretty wacky. Like, the queen has her eyeliner tattooed on, so she doesn't have to waste time every morning drawing her eyeliner on. So that just shows you, gives you an idea of how different it is from the movies. But I still really have a soft spot in my heart for these books. And here's our next sound. Now this sound calls itself a typewriter, and I'm going to go off of a typewriter, but to me it sounds more like Morse code. But I don't have any books that take place at the time of Morse code, so we're going to go with a typewriter. So obviously everybody associates typewriting with the art of writing, so I think it lends very well to Stephen King's On Writing. And I just realized now, I could have sworn he was at a desk on a typewriter. But he's not. There's a very old school looking computer in the background. But regardless, it's still about the art of writing. It's an interesting book. A lot of it is autobiographical and just kind of talks about what inspired Stephen King throughout his life to become a writer, and what he went through to get himself to where he is. and a little bit about the craft. I honestly wish more of it had been about the craft, but it was still an interesting read for sure. I think I gave it like 4 stars. And here's the next sound. Six of Crows lends itself pretty easily to the suggestion of money. It is a story about thieves trying to pull off a heist with very high stakes where they're going to get a lot of money out of it if they succeed. I know this is a huge book on YouTube. It was one that I never thought would live up to the hype, but I was wrong. It was incredible. The characters are what really makes this book. If you somehow missed the train and didn't read this book, I definitely think it's worth your time. Here's the sound I'm a little nervous about. So a cow. I'm gonna have to think about this one for a minute. I actually thought of one really fast. Like as soon as I said it was gonna take a minute, I was like, oh wait, no. So I went with Urusei Yatsura by Rumiko Takahashi. She's the same author who did Inuyasha. So this book is about Lum. She comes, invades Earth, and she and her father, and they choose this boy to represent all of Earth, and he has to have a competition with her where he has to grab her horns. He has 10 days, otherwise, if he doesn't succeed, they will invade Earth. And it's really challenging because she can fly, and he's just a stupid mere mortal. It's a really funny book. Lum is very, very cute, as you can see. But I chose this book because she has this ex-fiance who's a species like her, but he turns into this big monster thing, and they call him a cow. It doesn't really look anything like a cow, which is part of what's hilarious. But yeah, that was what came to my mind first. So if you haven't read it, I highly recommend it. It's a really fun book, and the anime is also really fun. And here is the last sound. Ooh la la. This one, I could also apply to Lum because she's very cute, but I will go with a different book. Automatically, I can tell you right now, it's gonna go to A Court of Mist and Fury. For one, you can interpret it as like a book with steamy, sexy scenes, which this definitely has, but also if you're thinking more of like a sexy character who you think is really hot, it's gonna go to anyone in this book. But for me personally, it's Rhysand, but really like I can justify for anybody choosing anybody to be a book crush. They're all very beautiful people. So that's gonna do it for this challenge. Thank you so much, Holly, for coming up with it. I had a lot of fun. If you guys liked this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already done so, and then ring that bell if you want to be notified whenever I come out with videos. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.